Pop art began to slowly emerge during the mid-1950s through the early 1960s. Artists were reacting to the ever-expanding post-war consumer landscape that was reshaping their everyday lives. Artists all over the world, from New York, London, Paris, Rome, Milan, and Los Angeles, were participating in this movement. These artists were first called the New Realists after Paris's Nouveau Release. The term pop art was actually used in a derogatory manner to describe their work. As a result, many of the movement's leading artists were reluctant to have this label applied to their work. By using what was already available to them, these artists brought attention to the large amounts of information and visual stimuli that bombarded them every day. As a result, this put consumerism and image culture on bold display. Artists in the pop art movement often based their work on principles of collage and assemblage. This allowed them to open up their art to the large quantity of sources that was equally available to everyone through mass media. Pop art often blurred the boundaries of what was considered high art and low culture. Many of the artists involved in this movement began their careers as commercial artists, working jobs such as graphic designers or magazine illustrators. Having this background in commercial art trained them in the visual culture of mass media. Two artists that played an influential role in the pop art movement are Robert Rauschenberg and Jasper Johns. Rauschenberg's Combines was a series of work that combined aspects of painting and sculpture. They could either hang on a wall or be freestanding. These were influential to pop art through the action of placing ordinary objects in the context of art. Similarly, Johns painted or sculpted familiar objects such as flags, targets, numbers, light bulbs, and so on. His paintings would often include sculptural elements, as seen in his piece, Target with Four Faces. His work would often blend the cultural imagery of these objects, from which pop art drew parallels. Some of the most prominent American pop artists included Roy Lichtenstein, Tom Wesselmann, Jim Dine, James Rosenquist, Claes Oldenburg, and of course, Andy Warhol. All of these artists were seeking ways to depersonalize their art as well as revoke abstract expressionism's grand gestures. However, they had various approaches of reaching this goal. For example, Dine and Oldenburg often applied painterly and expressionist techniques to their subject matter as well as ordinary objects, whereas Lichtenstein and Warhol would often borrow imagery from popular media. All six artists drew upon the possibilities that were suggested in the work of Robert Rauschenberg and Jasper Johns. When most people think of pop art, they often picture Warhol's Campbell soup cans or Marilyn Monroe's. In his work, Warhol would often use mass-produced imagery as his subject matter. He was fascinated by the numbing effect caused by repetition. This is very evident in his work Disaster, which consisted of silkscreen repeats of photographs. These photos would depict things like car crashes, suicides, conflicts, and food poisoning. This referred to the repetition of this kind of imagery seen in popular media. It also referred to Warhol's own personal view that when you see the same gruesome imagery over and over again, it no longer has any effect. Overall, pop art became one of the most influential art movements of the 20th century. Today, pop art is recognized to provide a foundation for later artistic developments. One of the greatest achievements of pop art was creating a reaction. Much like the Dadaists, whom some of pop art's early artists were compared to, managed to shake up the commonplace of the art world by rebelling against traditional notions of art. I hope you enjoyed learning about pop art today.